Okay, good, good. Okay. So we still have a couple of students joining. So let's just give them some few minutes and let's see what we can start with. So this will be our roadmap for today. What we've been doing for the past, I believe, 3 weeks in terms of the labor market. So let me quickly give you guys the roadmap. We started with, I believe, chapter 3 and 4, or chapter 4 and 5, where we had the labor supply from the household, and we had the labor demand, from the firms. This was coming from firms, and this was coming from the household. And we said because the household has issues in terms of its maximization decision, we did make a couple of assumptions in terms of the consumption and whatnot. So the household did make a decision as to how much to choose in terms of their C star and how much to supply in terms of their labor, so as to maximize their utility. The firm also basically demanded the amount of labor demand, and that was it. So this was the dynamics that we used in the previous chapters in terms of the labor demand and labor supply. And the most important thing is, what I would like you guys to capture there is how to define or how to solve for the consumption and labor using the Lagrangian in terms of the household, and how to solve for the firm's problem in terms of just affects other conditions. So this has been the main thing that we started, I believe, 2 weeks ago. Having said that, we also went a step further to define what these two will do in terms of their competitive equilibrium. So we went a step further to define what a competitive equilibrium is. By competitive equilibrium, we basically pointed out the fact that we understood what these guys did, we understood what these guys did, and we also said the labor supply will automatically be the same as labor demand. And that will give us the wage that we have in equilibrium. And we also had the government coming in to play a role. And when the government came in, it took away taxes to finance its expenditure. So this has been what we've been doing for the past week and what we did on Tuesday as well. But on Tuesday, I realized it was a bit too fast because we were a bit behind time and most of you had issues grasping what we did. So my advice there will be, forget about the graphs on Tuesday, concentrate on the outcomes of the graphs. What do they mean? What is the intention of each graph? If you understand the implication of each graph, it should be fine. And hopefully that will take some time away from you. So this has been the main issue. Today, what I'm about to do is very simple. We did make a very simple assumption that at the end of the day, the labor supply will automatically be the same as the labor demand. And that will give us the wage. But in real life, this is not always true. In real life, it's not as if that whenever I'm interested in supplying labor, I just go to a firm and tell the firm, hey, I would like to work 5 hours, and they will also allow me to work 5 hours. I first of all have to do what we call search. I have to go and apply for work. After I apply for work, I search for work, I have to get a firm that is interested in hiring me. So the whole idea here is that there is something we call friction. And friction is due to the fact that you have to go in and look for the job yourself. As a household, you have to search for job. While the firms here will also have to post their vacancies to tell the people that, hey, indeed, we need this much. So that's what we are going to do today. So that will be the roadmap for today's discussion. Let me see the number of people we have, and we can just get started. How many people in the, I think I have 45. 45, let me see who might be our presenter for today. Do I have Tanya?
Yeah, I'm here.
Do you mind being our presenter for today?
Sure.
Is okay?
Yeah, it's good.
So this will be our roadmap for today. And if anyone has any question, just let me know. So today we are going to concentrate heavily on the fact that people will have to, we as individuals, we have to go and search for work. And how do we model that? We are moving away from this simplistic view that everything is perfect. If you have questions as to the roadmap, just let me know. If not, then I'll start right away and motivate this chapter, which is chapter 6. So I also received a couple of comments from 3 students or so as to the nature of the tutorial and the courses and all that. So first thing first, I would like to cancel the group discussion because the group was just too much and most of you weren't able to express your views, given the fact that the time wasn't enough. So the group discussion will be canceled. You just have to present your assignment and that will be it. Henceforth, your TA will take you through the questions, and if you have questions, you can ask him. So that will be the first thing. Group discussion will be canceled. The second most important thing is I realized that in as much as I wanted you guys to attend the class and to make the quizzes a bit random, but at the same time, not giving a specific date, some of you did complain that that in itself was also unsettling. So if that's the case, I will make sure I announce the specific day for the quiz. So you get to know whether you have the quiz on a Tuesday or you have it on a Thursday. I wouldn't make it random between Tuesdays and Thursdays. So that will be known to you before the beginning of the week. Having said that, if the attendance goes back below 45, I'm afraid I'll have to come back and make it random. So that will be the second change to the course. The third change to the course is you guys wanted to see which specific aspects of the book we pick up the respective readings from. So henceforth, if there is a need for me to make a specific chapter very precise and specific, I will let you guys know. If not, I will just make mention of the fact that everything in the chapter is needed in terms of your reading. So that will be the 3 most important changes. And lastly, in terms of the Canvas page, I'll try as much as possible to make it a bit more readable, because I realize that we do have a lot of information in there and it might be a bit difficult to digest. Tanya, is there any question in the chat room?
Yeah, we got a couple questions. Somebody
Sure.
asked, are all group discussions canceled from now on?
Yeah.
Okay. And then the next one is, will assignments now be worth 25% from 20%?
No, it will go back to, it will still maintain at 20%. And I'll have to, is it 16%, was it?
I'm not sure.
I will shift the group discussion back to participation grade in the class.
Okay.
Yeah. Any further questions?
Everything.
Good. And lastly, I realized some of you did miss the assignments. Some also missed the quizzes, and some also did miss the bonus mark in terms of submitting it late. My policy about submitting something late or not participating in a quiz or specific assignment is very simple. First, I wouldn't want to disadvantage you by not giving you the chance to retake it. Having said that, I also wouldn't want to disadvantage the students who spent their time, they paid attention to what's going on and they participated in it. So if, for instance, somebody did pay attention to everything and then the person took the quiz and the person had the least grade, in as much as I would like to regrade or give you the chance to retake the quiz because you've missed out, I also have to take into account that I don't have to disadvantage the least performing students in the class who took the grade. So what I'm saying here is if the least mark in the quiz happens to be 20% and I give you the chance to retake the quiz, I will try as much as possible not to shoot you over the least possible person because it's going to be curved. If you have a valid reason for missing out, and I realize that your participation in tutorials in classes is also very good, then I will have to overlook the least person and give you the chance to take it all over, and I will regrade it and give you the standard grade. But if there is no valid reason and you would like to retake your quiz because you missed out, just have in mind that I also think about the least person in class who had the least grade. I don't want to disadvantage that person. Any questions in there?
No questions.
So let's quickly start with today's discussion, and that will be the search model. So everything in chapter 6 is a fair game, and hopefully we'll come to the understanding of it. So chapter 6 is going to be in 3 sections. Number 1 is about the motivation. Get to know the reason why we are moving away from the simplistic view of NX equals ND. Why are we moving to the search model? Why do we need search models? The second part of chapter 6 talks about the determinants of unemployment, because in every economy, there is going to be some people who are going to be unemployed whilst others will be employed. So we have to talk about the whole idea of unemployment, the factors surrounding it. 3 is where we start looking at the models. The very first model that we will look at is the one-sided search model. Here, we are looking at only the worker. We look at the decision made by the worker in terms of whether he would like to work or not, and let's see the dynamics involved. And lastly, we will look at a two-sided search model. Here, we will look at both the worker and the firm, the decisions that they make and how that affects their wage and unemployment. Just like what we saw in the previous chapters, whenever you talk about a specific model, there's a need for you to do a comparative stats. So under the one-sided model, make sure you understand the comparative stats in there, whilst within the two-sided model as well, make sure you understand the comparative stats. Remember, comparative stats basically talks about the fact that what happens to the model when a particular parameter changes. You have to understand those dynamics. So this chapter, I believe, is going to be very easy if you understand the math, and it's going to be very easy as well if you understand the diagram. So make sure you stop me whenever a particular step is not clear to you. Is that okay? Is there any question as to the setup for today's model?
No questions.
So let's start right away by we just finished talking about why we need a search model, because there's going to be a lot of friction. It might be the case that I would like to work for 4 hours. A firm would like to hire me, but I don't have a direct communication with him, so I don't know where the firm is. Neither does the firm know where I am. So there is a friction in there. So that's the need why we need a model to better understand how the individuals are performing. Now, as to the determinants of unemployment, you tend to see factors like demographic changes, factors like how the economy is doing, factors like mismatched information and all that. This determines the state of an individual being unemployed or not. So if you read the book, the first part of the book, there were a couple of factors that it raised. I'm going to tackle just few. Let's take how the economy is doing and how that affects unemployment. The whole idea here is that if the economy is doing really well, then people will have more chances to get into the job market and they will get employed. So the better the performance, the higher the economy is doing, the lower the unemployment rate. So this is what they call counter cycle. They go in counter ways. Whilst one goes up, one goes down. So as the economy goes up, this guy goes down. That's the first part of the determinants. Now, the second part of the determinants of unemployment is demographics. That is to say, what are the ages of the individuals in the market? It might be the case that you have older generation or you have younger generation. If I'm very old and I'm around 60 years and I'm working for a particular firm, chances are that I don't want to leave. I would like to stay with that particular firm because when I leave that firm and I go look for a job elsewhere, my chances of getting this employment is going to be very slim. So older generations tend to keep the work that they have. Whilst younger generations, what we tend to see here is that they have higher chances of getting hired. So if they pick up a job today, they work for Tim Hortons and they don't like it, they can easily move to Starbucks the next day. So the fact that they can easily transition from one job to another implies that the unemployment rate here is going to be very high, whilst the unemployment rate here is going to be pretty much steady. That's the second part of the determinants. Now, the third part of the determinants, which is going to motivate what we'll be talking about today, is the mismatch or the information. This is a situation where I have an individual, a worker who needs to work, and I have a firm who needs to hire someone. But they don't have the direct channel of communication to get themselves together. Imagine the situation where I live in Burnaby and I'm really interested in working. Questions? Tanya?
Yeah, we got a question. So somebody's asking, so for the old, the unemployment is low, and for the young, it's high?
Yeah, because of constant movement. Because if you leave a job today, the whole assumption is that you don't necessarily get the job the next day. You probably have to search and look for a better paying job. So during the time where you sit at home or you sit in front of the computer trying to get a better paying job than what you had earlier, you'll be considered as unemployed, right? So if the younger generation tend to have a higher chances of leaving their job, every time that they leave a particular job, they'll have to go and search. And whenever they search, they are classified as unemployed. So that will raise the rates at which the unemployment rate will be. So if you have questions, feel free and ask. So let's look at the case of the mismatch. So coming back to the mismatch again, I have a worker who is interested in working for 24 or for 10 hours. I have a firm which is also interested in hiring for 10 hours. These guys would love to get in touch with each other. But the problem here is that there is no direct channel of communication that would get them together. So there's going to be some level of mismatch due to information. And because of that, they wouldn't get themselves matched. So there's not going to be a match between the worker and then the firm, and the worker will therefore be classified as unemployed. But the good news here is that due to the invention of internet, we have things like LinkedIn, we have things like Facebook and Indeed and all that. These are matching technologies. It will help you better have a chance of matching yourself to a firm. So this mismatch could be improved if the technology increases. So given a certain level of technology, the rate at which a worker and a firm comes together and match with each other also increases. So that's one thing you have to be, looking at. I believe there are 3 or 4 more factors that determine unemployment in the opening part of chapter 6. Try and have a look at them, read them. If you think it's difficult understanding, please draw my attention. I can have a look at it and get back to you. So these are the 3 key things that I'm looking at, and then the others will be left for you as form of reading. So I'm going to move away from the determinants of unemployment. If you have any question, please draw my attention. Questions? Tanya?
No questions. No questions right now.
Okay. So let's move on to the definitions that you should have whenever you have. So let me quickly take the definitions here, just like what we, So we have the first definition. Let's define what an unemployment rate is. And it's going to be very funny. We have U over Q. U here represents those who are actively looking for a job, but they don't have the job. Whilst this Q here represents the part those who are employed plus those who are unemployed. That is to say, there are 3 classifications that we need to look at. 3 key classifications whenever you are talking about unemployment and employment. First, we have unemployed guys. Second, we have employed guys. And third, we have those who are unemployed but not looking for a job. These are unemployed and searching for a job. If you understand these 3 key classifications, then your life is easier. If you have issues, please let me know. These guys here, they don't have jobs and they are looking for it. They are classified as you. These guys here, they are already in the job market, so they already have their
question.
Sure.
Are we ignoring people younger than 15 and older than 65?
Oh yeah, so that's a good question. So for now, let's take those guys out. So we are clearly looking at the participation, those who are eligible to be in the job market. We are not looking at the entire population in the economy, because if that's the case, we have to count the infants up until 15, which is not reasonable. We should have a viable and reasonable population pool for us to define these variables on. So this is a good question. Yeah, so we don't have those who are not eligible, which is from 0 to perhaps 15, 65, and maybe 100 due to pension, and those who happen to be in prison. Sometimes when you read macroeconomics textbook, they are specific about that as well. Those who happen to be, incarcerated due to the fact that they are in prison, obviously, they can't go looking for a job, and they wouldn't be classified within this group. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good. Thanks.
Sure. So this is the whole idea here. So make sure you identify each and every one of them before you define what an unemployment rate is. So this is the first one that we have, and the participation rate is basically the K over N. And remember, N here represents this plus this plus this. Everybody who is eligible, everything here is part of the N. This plus this is your Q, I believe. These two guys represents your Q. Everything here represents your N. This represents your U. And this is the participation rate. And this is your unemployment rate. So I'm going to move away from the definition and straight out move to the math. If you have questions, let me know before I move along. Can you guys see down there? Is it eligible from that end?
Yes, we can see it. We've got a couple questions too, though.
Sure.
Can you explain U, Q, and N again?
U, right, are the unemployed. Q is a combination of U, right? So let me take this guy out. U, unemployed and searching for job, U. U plus, let's label this guy E, unemployed and looking for job plus employed. When you add U plus E, you have Q. These are those we have in the participation, right? Now, U plus E plus these guys, they are unemployed and not searching. So I'm going to label them as U and S. U and S will therefore give you the N. U plus E, participation. Either you have the job or you don't have it, but you are still searching in the market. So you are considered as somebody who is participating in the market. So that gives us Q, these two guys. If you are not participating in the market, which means you're not searching, you're not within the Q. Is that okay?
Yeah, I think you answered everyone's questions now.
You said?
I think you answered everybody's questions now.
Okay, then. Let's quickly move along and start looking at the one-sided search model, where we only look at the worker. So what do we have here? We have something that we call V of E. This is the value of you being classified as employed. So I'm going to do one-sided search. So this is one-sided search. VE represent the value of you being employed, how much you value the work you have. And remember, whenever you have work, you are being given a wage. So this is the first part of the one-sided search. We take into account the fact that the individual has work and he values his work. The other aspect of one-sided search model, so this is for those who are employed. The other side of one-sided search model happens to be the unemployed. How much they value the fact that they are not in the labor market. So these guys, what you tend to see here is that you see V of U. The V of U represent the value of the unemployed, how much they value the fact that they are not working. Now, what you tend to see here is that this is not a function of W, whilst this guy is a function of W. The reason being that when you're not working and you are being classified as unemployed, you don't get wage. So it's not a function of W. When you work, you get paid. So this valuation is a function of W. So just make sure you understand the difference between those who are working in terms of the notation VE and those who are not working in terms of the notation VU. Now let's go to, I'm going to concentrate on those who are working first before moving to those who are not working. If you are working, there are a couple of things that will come either for you or against you. The first variable that you tend to see here for a worker is S. S here represents the separation rate. So for today, I'm working for SFU. It might be the case that
we've got some questions.
Oh, feel free.
Is V of unemployment representative of the EI/employment benefits offered?
Yeah, I'll look. It's going to cover. Yeah, it's going to cover the, which is just the
one. Okay, we've got another question as well. Isn't W the opportunity cost of unemployed? Why is V unemployed? Why V unemployed is not a function of W?
So let me ask. Let me try and classify this, or maybe clarify it further. If I happen to work, I'm in the job market. The question here is, why am I in the job market? I'm in the job market and I'm working because I'm being given a wage which I love. That's why I'm still working for the firm. That's why this guy here, the value for his or her work depends on W. For the unemployed guys, I'm living at home, right? I'm living at home. I'm not working. Am I being paid wage? No, I'm not being paid wage. What am I being paid? I'm just giving a constant B, which you guys pointed out, which is the value for my unemployment insurance. So if all the decisions that I make are constantly going to base on the B. Now, when I merge the valuation of the employed with the valuation of the unemployed, that's where you have the opportunity cost of not working coming in. That's where you have the W star or the reservation wage. But for now, we are trying to keep away from the reservation wage and merge this guy to that guy so that we can finally see how the reservation wage comes. Is that you guys?
Yeah, and then we had another question. So should B be part of the formula on the right side?
Should B be part of the formula on the right-hand side? No, for now.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. This is right-hand side, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, it should be. It
Okay.
should be. Yeah, it should be. But it wouldn't be here.
Okay.
So let's go back to the worker, right? The worker has what we call S, and S is a separation rate. Separation rate basically says that even the fact that you are working implies that your boss will come in and fire you. Or it might be because of the fact that you don't like the work anymore, so you are leaving. So separation might be coming from two aspects. You as a worker or the firm. Either the firm fires you or you quit. So that's where the separation rate is coming from. S. I think I just received an email. Let me see whether it's a student. Please, when you come in, make sure your mic is off so that we don't get the echoing. Okay. So we are still looking at the separation rate for the worker, right? Either you quit, which means you are separating from the firm, or either you get fired. So that's the first important variable in here. Having said that, we need to draw how this guy looks like. So this is how you value your work. So when I'm interested in drawing your graph, it's going to look like this. Remember, V is a function of W. So W is going to come here. So let me ask you guys this particular question. Is there anyone who is Yes or no? If it happens to be Tanya, you can say yes. If it's not you, you can leave it to the class. Is there anyone who has been working for some time now? Class? Feel free.
I'm saying no.
No? Let me call you guys out. Nobody? No? Yeah, okay.
Yes.
Maggie, yeah. Ella, Maggie. How did you guys feel the first time you received the job offer to come and work for a particular firm? You feel extremely happy, right? The first time you work for a firm or a company, you feel very, very happy. But the more you stay in a firm, the lesser the enjoyments that you have, even if your wage is to increase. So the whole idea here is that the first wage that we receive has a higher value to us. The second has a higher value, but not as compared to the first one. The third will have a higher value, but not as compared to the second one. So the very last one. So your valuation of work increases at a decreasing rate. So this is concave. How much you value work is concave. Imagine you happen to be on a desert and you are starving to death. So someone come in and give you a first cup of water. You will do everything for that person. If I come in and I give you the second cup, you wouldn't value it compared to the first one. If someone is to come in again and give you another cup of water, you wouldn't value it as it goes on. So it goes in that direction, right? So the value of work increases, but it's concave. So that's what we mean by concavity. Is there anyone with any question in there?
No questions.
So, yeah.
No questions.
Good. So this is the whole idea for those who happen to be working. For those who happen not to be working, yeah, sure.
Someone said, so we would say that the marginal value of work is negative?
The marginal value of work increases at a decreasing rate, not necessarily negative. The first order condition should be positive, but the second order condition will be negative. It increases, yeah, diminishing, yeah. It diminishing, right? Is that okay? John?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is the concavity part of it. Now let's go to the second part of the unemployed guys. Remember, this guy doesn't value anything. He's only given, just like you pointed out, the first variable, B, which represents the benefit for not working. So benefit or insurance for not working. So that's the first variable. Before I go to B, let me ask you guys this question. What will be your valuation for work when your S is extremely high? You work for a company and you know the company can sack people at any time. Would you value the company that much or lesser? Anyone in the chat room? Less, correct. So what that implies is that when S increases, your valuation of this guy comes down when S increases.
We have a question as well.
Sure.
Someone said, please explain why the graph starts at 0 if the first wage is valued highly.
What's that? Again, sorry.
Why does the graph start at 0 if the first wage is valued highly?
That's a good question. This guy here at the point 0, right? There's no valuation. Can you see? At point 0, there's no valuation. 0 view of W, this being 0, this being 0, you start here. If you assume that you start from 0, everything here is 0. But when you receive the first wage, when you are being paid W of 1, still with the firm, you appreciate the firm this much on the first pay that you receive. If the firm promises you to pay you another additional $2, you appreciate it, but you wouldn't appreciate it as the first time of you receiving a job offer. Is that clear? So I don't have a job. I'm starving to death. I've searched all over the world. I don't get any. Then I go to this firm and they go like, hey, you come here. We realize that you don't have a wage, so your wage is 0. So your valuation of work is 0. We are going to give you a work and we are going to pay you $1. You will be happy. You will be extremely happy the first dollar pay that you receive. You are still working for the firm and they go like, we're going to increase your pay to $2. The question here is, will the first $1 you receive give you a higher satisfaction compared to the additional benefit or the additional wage increment of $1? Which one will have higher value to you? Question. Which one will you have a higher value? You don't have a work and you go to the workplace and you receive a wage of W. 1 year later, they've increased your wage to $2, which means your wage has now increased by 1. The question here is, will this $1 give you a higher satisfaction compared to this $1 or vice versa? Which one will give you a higher satisfaction?
Previous, the $1.
The very first one. Yeah. So that's why we have, that's why we have it that way.
We have another question as well.
Yeah.
As W increases, will S increase as well?
Not necessarily. They are independent of each other for now. Yeah. They are independent of each other for now. Unless we make like very serious assumptions, then we get to see where they tend to affect each other. But for now, they are independent. Is that okay?
Yeah, no more questions.
Good. So we now understand how this guy looks like in terms of the separation rate and what's going on. Then we come to this guy, the guy who doesn't.
I got another question.
Okay, feel free.
What is the theory/rationale behind VW decreasing when S increases?
Yeah, the whole idea here is that, right? Imagine, right? Somebody who has been given a job, okay? And then two people go to they go to a restaurant. They all have jobs. The first person knows for sure that his job has been secured forever. There is no way they are going to sack him. The second person knows that there's a 50% chance that they can sack him tomorrow. Who do you think will be more willing to express how happy he is about his job? Who will be very happy to express exactly? The former, right? So his valuation of the job that he has is going to be higher. Yeah. Is that okay? Yeah. So that's the whole idea there. Now let's go to this benefit. So for the benefit, there are a couple of things I would like you guys to pay attention to, right? B represents the benefit that you receive. So when you happen to be not working, you receive B. If you happen to be not working, you receive what we call rho or P. Rho or P is basically saying that the chances of you getting offer. Because you happen not to be working, it might be the case that there's a firm that has realized that you're not working, so they're coming to you and then they're going to tell you that, hey, I'm going to give you this job. So that's the P, that's the offer that they are going to give you. So this will also tend to play a role. So these are the two parameters I would like you to pay attention to when you are talking about the unemployed guys. The first thing here is, if you are unemployed and you have B, whenever your B increases, just like what we have here, the CERB, because the unemployment benefit has increased, we have individuals who don't want to work anymore. So when this guy goes up, your value for not working also goes up because you don't want to work anymore. Now the first one. They become extremely picky and they will forever remain unemployed because they know for sure they're going to get a very high unemployment insurance. The second most important thing here is rho or P. Whenever you know that offers come to you all the time, you be extremely picky as well. When you have an individual who knows for sure that every time that he goes out to look for a job, offers comes to him all the time, he's going to be extremely picky. He doesn't want to just go ahead and then say yes to a firm when he knows that other firms might come and give him a higher benefits and all that, or higher contracts and all that. So this is, yeah, probability of finding a job. Yeah, right. Was that what the question was, Tanya?
Yeah.
So this is what I would like you guys to pay attention to. So I'm just going to move away from it. right? If you have questions, let me know. If not, then I'll just merge these two and determine what the reservation wage is. Just like what you guys wanted to, ask earlier. So we have this guy, we have this guy. Let's quickly get to the reservation wage. Still with the one-sided search model. So we have the value for, this is your wage, the value for being employed, which is a function of W, as we pointed out earlier, is going to look like this. The value for unemployed, because you always receive a constant CARB of 1,000 every week, it doesn't change, right? So your valuation is just the same as the amount of income that the government promises you in terms of unemployment insurance. So your value here is going to remain fixed at a point. So this is the valuation of the unemployment guys, which is going to be the same as the benefit that he receives every period. So we have V of U here. The point where these two guys meet, determines the reservation wage, determines your W. I realize the red mark is not good when I watch the video, so I'm going to use the blue mark again. W here, this W represents the reservation wage that you guys pointed out. So what does that mean? At this point in time, the value, all the region that you have here, the value of not being employed is greater than the value of being employed. And if that's the case, you reject any offer. At W, when W star, so all the region that you have here, so this blue line is greater than this black line, which basically implies that the value for not working is higher than the value of you working. So you will never go and look for work. And that's what we have currently in the Canadian economy. Because of the CARB, which promises you $1,000 every 2 weeks, the value of not working is higher. People are not willing to work anymore. Question, Tanya?
Can we clarify the notation? Somebody believes that the W star is equilibrium wage.
Is the reservation, the point where you make a decision as to whether equilibrium, you might want to call it that, but the best term for it is a reservation. The point where you are indifferent between working and not working. Because the value of work is the same as the value of you not working. So that's a reservation. When it goes above it, the value of working is higher than the value of not working, so you're going to work. So every point above this level, you forever accept any offer that comes to you, and you will work. Is that okay with everyone? Is it not clear? Let me know. This is the cutoff point.
They're asking, is the notation the same for, they're saying that we used the W star for equilibrium wage earlier, and is the W star used as both those meanings?
Oh, not necessarily, not necessarily. So this is a different chapter, right? So for this chapter, we are talking about a particular decision you might want to make. So remember in the earlier chapter, the most important difference that we had between the earlier chapter and this chapter is that the earlier chapter, we just assumed that whenever you like to work, you just get work. But here is different. There is friction involved. There is the value of you not working and all that.
Okay, somebody else asked, so if W star is greater than WR, someone will take any job offer?
Let's label this WR because this is our reservation wage, right? Reservation wage implies the points where you are indifferent between working and not working. Whenever your W is greater than your reservation wage, which is every point here, when your W is greater than WR, you accept the offer. Whenever your W is lower than WR, you wouldn't. Because the value of work, not work, all the regions here, the value of work is higher than the value of not work. And that is because the W is greater than the reservation wage. And the opposite implies here. John, did that answer your question? Do you want any further clarification?
So
all good?
Someone else asked, what happens if W equals WR?
Yeah, you are indifferent, more or less like indifferent. You go to work, you might want to take it as a point where you still don't want to work. Yeah, you might want to take it as a point where you might still don't want to work. And any point above that is where you might want to work. You make your decision at the very increment above WR. You take your decision to work. Is that okay?
Yeah,
okay. Good. So let's see what happens. What happens to an individual when the value, so I'm just going to touch one-on-one. When the CERB, that's the value for unemployment insurance, goes up, just like what we saw in Canada recently. When it goes up, see what happens here. V goes up because B has increased. See what we have here. He becomes super picky because his reservation wage has now gone up. He doesn't accept offers that much anymore. At first, he accepts offers from here to here. Now he's accepting offers just from here to here. So that's what CRB does to us. It makes us super picky, and it doesn't, allow us to accept offers that much. And by that, we wouldn't be willing to work that much. Is that okay? Questions?
No questions.
Good, good. And you might want to take the case of the separation rate. What happens when the separation rate goes up? So I'm going to cancel this guy. Think about what happens when separation rate goes up. Again, the same idea. When separation goes up, the value of you working goes down. And as the value of you working goes down, you will be unwilling to take much offers anymore. This is a point where the separation rate goes up. So keep that in mind. When you read this chapter, make sure you value the parameters, see the implications, see the outcomes, because you don't know where the multiple choice will be coming from. Is that okay? If that's okay, then we can quickly move on to the last part of this chapter. Let me see, where's my duster? I'm the only one here. Who took my duster? Okay. If it's okay, let me go to the final one. And this is where we start with the math, where the math becomes interesting as to the dynamics of the model. Just a reminder.
Someone's asking if we're able to take a break.
Yeah, I'll be taking a break just after the equations here. Is that okay, Maggie? Yeah. Good. I'm just going to take a break just after this equation, and we'll go for 5 minutes break very soon. Okay, so let me just start on this equation. Remember, U represents unemployment, and 1 minus U represents employment. So these are the employed guys. These are the unemployed guys. What I'm going to do here is there a question? Where's question one?
Someone asked Q equals 1.
What's that?
Does Q equal 1?
Yeah, you might want to normalize it. Remember, it's a rate. So whenever I say a rate, 1 minus the rate is the opposite of the other, right? Remember, whenever you hear a rate, is a probability, right?
This is the amount or a rate?
It should be a rate, the rate of unemployment, right?
Okay, some people thought U was just an amount.
Let's assume it is, right? U is the number of, yeah, that's a good question, but let's assume it's a rate for now, because when I assume this guy to be a rate, 1 minus 6 is just the opposite of it to make our lives easy.
They're saying they thought that U over Q is the rate.
U over Q is the rate, right? But it's the same idea here. This guy here over Q is unemployment rate, correct? This guy here over rate is the employed, the number of employed. So basically, when you multiply them by Q, the Q goes away.
So, okay, I think it was answered. U equals unemployed people and Q equals total labor force.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. And when you do this, you just multiply them by Q, it just goes away. Right? So for now, let's assume U is just the rate, just to make our lives easier. Is that okay? If you still have confusions with it, let me know.
That's good.
All good?
Yeah, it's good.
Good. So Maggie, I'll be finishing very soon. Just give me some few minutes, let me finish it up. So we have U, the unemployed guys, we have 1 minus U, these are the employed guys. Now what I'm going to do here is, we know that whenever you happen to be employed, there is a chance that you get fired, which means multiply by S. So you happen to be employed, but you get fired, which basically means that from here to here, you are now considered as unemployed. Here, you happen to be unemployed. But remember, the whole idea here is that we still have a P playing a role, correct? You receive an offer. So with this, you receive an offer, P. But when you receive an offer, you have to accept it or not, which is H, the rate at which you accept the offer that comes to you, which is the function of W. So from here to here, when you multiply U with these factors, you end up getting what we call employed. So what I just finished doing right now is the movement in and out of the market. If 10 people are to leave the job market because they get fired, 10 people will replace them because they will get hired. So hiring is the same as firing. And this is an important equation. Is that okay? S multiplied by those who are employed will give you unemployed. Those who are unemployed multiplied by P with the H will give you the employed. So this is the movement in and out of the market. Tanya, questions in the chat room?
No questions.
Good. Now we need to draw this, and this will determine our unemployment rate, just like what you guys see in the textbook. So when you are supposed to draw this, it's just going to look like this. This is a function of U, and we have the rate here. Because it's negative, S multiplied by this, we have this line here. This line represents S, 1 minus U, those who get fired. And the opposite of it, which is this guy here, remember U is positive here. So there's going to be a positive relationship. This represents those who get the job offer. So at the end of the day, this guy here represents our unemployment rate in equilibrium. Right? So this will represent our unemployment rate in equilibrium. Now that we are done drawing this graph, we can now juxtapose it with this graph, which we had earlier, where we have the valuation here, value of work, value of not work. We have this guy here giving us the WR or the W star, W here, the values of work here, and we can see what's going to happen. So I'll leave this thing to you guys to see how you can play around with it. See what happens here. Remember, there's a W here. So whenever you do something here, for instance, when this guy goes up, W here goes up. And as W goes up, this line is not a function of W, so you are safe. But this line is a function of W. So get to see what happens to this function, whether the line goes down or whether the line goes up, and what would that imply about unemployment in Ukraine. So I'm going to stop here. If you have questions, please let me know.
No questions.
Okay. Maggie, you can take a break. We're going to take a 5 minutes break. And yeah, Osama.
Someone said, what is U star?
U star is the unemployment in equilibrium, the unemployment rate in equilibrium, right? Remember, people. Yeah.
Someone else asked, so HW represents your possibility to take the offer as a function of the offered wage?
Exactly, as a function of the offered wage. Yeah, the likelihood of you accepting it. And when you look at the function in there, in the textbook, you guys should read as to the nature of the function. I can explain it to you if you want to, but if not, just read it. It should be pretty much clear. As the way is, when you happen to be somebody who has an extremely higher wage, the likelihood of you accepting another offer is very, very low. Imagine you happen to be, what's his name? Jeff Bezos or the Facebook guy, Mark Zuckerberg. What is the chances that he will receive an offer and then he will accept that offer? It's going to be extremely low, because the wage that he gets from Facebook or Amazon is extremely high. So there's going to be a negative relationship in there. And that's a function you see on the same page where you have H of W as a function of W. It looks funny like this. So as your wage increases, the higher the wage, the likelihood of you accepting an offer is extremely low, just like what John is trying to ask. But when you happen to be somebody whose wage is very low, the likelihood of you accepting offers is very high. So that's what I'm trying to point out. Is that okay?
Yeah, and we've got another question as well. Is V on the y-axis of the second graph as well?
No. It's not going to be V. It's not going to be V.
On the y. So what's the y-axis then on that one?
The outcome for S multiplied by 1 minus U, as well as the outcome for U multiplied by P H over W. They don't have a specific, you might want to call it the combination of S, 1 minus U, as well as H, or U, P, H of the W. These two will be on the axis here as the value changes. So it's not specific as to whether it is this guy or it is this guy. Any of the two, provided you can map it with the U, it should give you the y-axis. Is that okay?
Yeah, that's good.
Sure. So you guys can take a break and you come. Is everyone back? I think it's 5 minutes. Is it? Is up? So 5 minutes is up. If you are here, let me know. Are you guys? Oh, okay. Okay. Good.
Yeah,
Good.
we're here.
Good. Good. Thank you. 5 minutes is up. So let's quickly move on to the two-sided search model. And again, if you happen to have any questions, feel free to ask. This involves a lot of math here and there. So let me know if you have questions during this two-sided search model as well. So for the two-sided search model, as we pointed out, we are moving away from the fact that all the actions are coming from the workers to a more improved aspect of reality. What we have in reality, that is to say, we have both the workers and then the firms, looking for job as well as posting vacancies. So this is more to what we see in real world compared to only the workers looking for job without touching on the actions of the firm. So first thing first, I would like to introduce you guys to the whole idea of the matching function. The matching function is just like the production function that we saw in the earlier chapters. That is chapter 4, chapter 5. Match basically means that how many successful matches has there been? Maybe you might have 4 workers looking for work, and you have 3 firms looking for, workers to employ. It might be the case that only 2 matches will be formed. That is to say, only two firms will be willing to work with 2 workers. So the number of match there will just be 2. Right? So that's basically the whole idea about matches. How many combinations or how many collaborations was successful? That happens to be M, between the firms and then the workers. The E is just the same as the Z that we saw in the production function earlier. That is technology or productivity or efficiency in the matching function. The M is just like the F. It takes a functional form. For now, we don't assume any functional form. It's left to a blank. The Q represents the number of workers looking for the work, because before you have any match, there's a need for you to have workers. Whilst the A represents the number of firms looking to hire people. So the combination of these two will give us a match. Is that okay? Is that okay? All good?
Questions.
Good. Now let's have a look at the properties of the matching function. One important property I find interesting is the fact that let's set this guy to 0. And whenever you hear match, of course, dating apps like Tinder and all that comes to mind. It's all about matching. Imagine the situation where you have a matching function where there happen to be no workers looking for work and 10 firms looking for workers to hire. How many matches will we have? This is an interesting question. No worker is looking for work, which means your Q is 0, but you have correct. It's going to be 0 because at the end of the day, there's no collaboration. The firm will constantly look around, but it wouldn't find anyone. So the outcome here is going to be 0. Whenever either this guy being 0 or this guy being 0, the outcome is going to be 0. Is that okay? Do we get the intuition? For every matching to be successful, you need a reasonable amount of A and a reasonable amount of Q. Okay. If you have any questions, let me know. If not, let's go ahead and have a look at the dynamics of the matching function. Now that we are done with the matching function, defining what it is and all that, we are going to move away from, we are going to use the matching function to define what a probability is. So imagine a matching function which is M, which is the same as M, the number of Q and the number of A. we can divide this guy with a kill and divide this guy with a kill. This here will give you the probability of having a work as a worker. So you tend to see P of C here, right? P of C. The probability of a worker getting a successful match from the worker's perspective. Imagine I produce 10 apples, or maybe I produce 1 apple, which is 1 match. And I have my M equals 1. I have kill, which happens to be the number of workers to be 10. If you happen to be in this economy and you know for sure at the end of the day, there's only going to be one outcome of worker and a firm coming together to work, and there are 10 workers in the economy, what is the chances of you getting the work? Anyone to help me? There's only one outcome. Exactly, it's just going to be 1 over 10. So that's the reason why P of C here represents the probability of a worker getting a work. The opposite, which is P of F, will just be the same. M divided by A, the number of firms. That will give you the chances of you as a firm getting to match with an individual. So that's how to play around with the probabilities here and there. So we just finished moving the matching function to a more probabilistic, manner. One thing I would like to do here is to further break this guy down. Let's assume that this guy has a constant returns to scale. So this matching function P of C, E, M, I'm dividing them through by Q. Divide this guy by Q, divide this guy by Q. So the matching function P of C becomes E, and the probability of you getting a work as a worker, 1 A over Q. So this is much easier to work with. And what we need to pay attention here is, this guy here. A over Q. A over Q is what you see to be J, which represents the market tightness. So I'm going to write it here. The J now represents the market tightness. How tight is the market? And remember, J is the same as A over Q. So when J is up, it means either Q is up, and you have a lot of firms looking for workers, which means the chances of you getting a work as a worker increases. So P of C also increases. So that's the whole idea. J is a market tightness, and as A goes up, more firms are looking for workers, and the chances of you getting a job as a worker is also high. So that's what you need to understand by J. Is that okay with everyone? Questions?
No questions.
So if you happen to be in the chat room, no one should type anything, just type your full name and type yes. And when we are done, then you can come in with your questions. I don't want to get it messed up. Sometimes it's very hard to follow. So just type your full name and type yes, and we can just continue from there. So let's see, now that we understand what J is, now that we understand what P of C is, let's see how we can now define a more realistic equation. That's the value of you looking for work, or the expected value of you looking for a work. So that is going to be V of Q as a worker. So let's look at it from worker perspective. He has V of Q with a probability P of C, he gets work, correct? And when he gets the work, he gets paid W. That's the wage. Whenever I get match with the probability P of C, I get paid a wage of W. When I don't get a job, which is 1 minus P of C, what do I get? Anyone to help me? Anyone to help me? If I don't get a job, what do I get? B, which is the benefit. So this is your expected outcome. We know what P of C is, which is basically your margin function divided by your Q. And that's what you see in the equation. So I'm going to move away from that. Remember, P of C is just, let me just write it standard way of writing it. You can just break this guy down. There's a P of C here, there's this guy here. So I have P of C, factorize it out, W plus B minus B, P of C. There's a P of C here, there's a P of C here. So it's just going to be P of C, W minus B, right, plus B. I believe that's what you end up with. And that's going to be the expected outcome of the individual. Questions?
I've got a question. So this would be the expected value of searching or of getting a job?
Expected searching, right? That's going to be the expected value of searching. Okay. Because when you search, it might be the case that you get a job or you wouldn't get a job. So you have to consider the two. What is the expected value of throwing a coin? 50% chance you get head, 50% chance you get a tail. Is that okay? Okay, sure. So that's going to be the outcome for the firm. Now I'm going to, for the worker. I'm going to move away from the worker and talk about the firm, which is very interesting. The firm has the same idea, right? And make sure you stop me here whenever it's not clear. The value for the firm is going to be the profit. When they get matched, they get an outcome. A probability P of F, I get matched. Whenever I get matched, I produce Z. Imagine Z to be the outcome that you produce. Okay? Imagine Z to be the outcome that you produce. Tanya, I see people typing in. Is there a question?
They're just doing their name.
Oh. Okay. So this is so your expected profit as a firm, probability P of F, you get matched, and whenever you get matched, you produce Z. But the fact that you produce means that you need to pay the cost of you producing. What's the cost of you producing? Basically, you have to pay for the wage. That's the cost of you producing. So you get this guy here. And there's going to be an interesting factor here. And that's where I would like you guys to pause. Ask me questions if it's not clear. Not only do I pay a wage for the workers who help me work to produce Z, I will also have to pay the cost of me advertising this position. Because I do have to post flyers around, tell people that, hey, I have this vacancy. Are you willing to come and work for me? So the fact that I have to go ahead and post posters and hire people to come and help me advertise this position comes at a cost. And this cost is going to be K. Right? If I don't get a match, which is 1 minus P of F, I don't produce anything, so I produce 0. I don't pay any wage, so 0. However, regardless of whether I get a match or not, I will have to pay for the advertisement fee, which is K. Is that okay with everyone? So K appears on both sides of the outcome. On the first part, I was successful. Z is the outcome. So remember we had a production function that might be like something like this. F of K, maybe N. Let's assume everything here is 1. So your outcome is just Z. So this is what you produce. Questions?
Someone else asked, what is after 1 minus PS?
1 minus PF means, so remember PF is you getting someone to work for you. 1 minus 8 is the opposite, you not getting anyone to work for you. So if you didn't get a match, if nobody came to you to work for you, would you produce anything? No. Would you pay wages? No. Would you pay advertisement fee? Yes, because you went out to look for people, but you didn't get them. So you for sure have to pay for it. Ella, is there, what's Ella's question?
She was just helping answer that question for someone.
Is that okay with everyone?
I think it's good.
Good. So at the end of the day, when you break this guy down, it's just going to be P of F, Z, minus P of F, W, minus P of F, K, plus K, minus plus P of F, K. This guy cancels this guy, and that's what you see the final outcome to be. And let me just write it down for the sake of time. You end up with, let me be sure, P Z minus W plus, was it plus K or minus K? Minus K, right? Yeah, minus K. Is that okay? Is that okay with everyone? So that's just the math. If you're not getting the math, let me know. But just like any firm, right? Just like any firm, because we are in a competitive equilibrium setting, what is the profit of a firm in a competitive market? Anyone to help me? What do we have? Correct. Is 0, right? So the expected outcome, the expected profit in a competitive market is 0, which basically implies that this guy here that we finished solving happens to be 0. So we end up with K over Z minus W equals P of F. So that's how to get the equation under the firm. If you have questions, please let me know. Questions? Questions? Tanya?
No questions.
Good. So let's quickly see what we can do in terms of putting these two guys together. So we now understand how to get the firm. We now understand how to get the worker. Now we have to draw a graph to better, and we have to go ahead and see the type of decisions that the two of them do make. And that's where we have the whole idea of the Nash equilibrium. So here, please draw my attention and let me know if you have questions with the Nash equilibrium. It might be a bit hard, so just pay attention. We know that a firm will have a profit. And we know that a worker will also have a net profit or net outcome of a wage. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to put them together, let them have a chart, and come up with a solvable solution where they all agree. And that's where we have the whole idea of Nash bargaining, which is good. Firm has a surplus, workers do have a surplus. They come together, based on their surplus, they bargain. They go like, hey, I know that you can produce this much in terms of the profit, and you also know that I can have this in terms of the profit. So please don't stay home. Come work for me so that we share the outcome that we have. So that's the whole idea. Trying to come together and bargain with each other. So when the firm comes to you and tells you that, you go to the firm, you tell the firm, hey, I think I will agree to your proposal. However, I would like to have 50% of the total surplus that comes out of our collaboration. The firm might also go like, hey, 50% is too much. I would like to give you 40%. So the two of you will keep on bargaining to the point where the two of you will come to a reasonable solution. So that's the whole idea of the bargaining. So before they go ahead and bargain, you have to understand what this guy's surplus is in the first place, if he's to join the firm, and understand what this guy's surplus is in the first place if he is to get a worker to work for him. Then add this guy's surplus to this guy's surplus to understand the total surplus. And as soon as you're done with the total surplus, you now bring the fraction, whether they agreed at 50% or they agreed at 40% or they agreed at 30%. So let's look at the worker's surplus. The surplus that a worker has for joining a firm is basically the difference between what he gets from working, which is W, minus what he gets from staying at home, which is B. So this is a surplus for the worker. This is his surplus. Questions? Is there any question?
No questions.
Now, what about the firm? The surplus for the firm is just going to be what he produces, which is Z. What he's been able to produce, which is Z. And remember, when he produces something, he has to pay a wage. So his surplus is just the same as his net profit.
I've got a question.
Oh, feel free.
Do we ignore the possibility of negotiation for the wage when determining W?
We ignore the possibility for the wage when determining
Do we ignore the possibility of negotiation for the wage when determining W?
Negotiation comes in terms of the total surplus that they have at the end of the day to share. For now, we assume that there's a constant wage that comes out of it. So imagine that there is already for every hour that you work, we know for sure that the market wage is always going to be $10. So this wage is already predetermined, right? It's already predetermined.
And what about K when calculating firm surplus?
No, there is no K because let's assume that there is no K in the first in this instance, because imagine a situation where you already identified that this guy is a guy that you want to work with. You already identified him. It's not as if you are now going to the market and search, and when they come, you bargain. No, you've identified that, hey, I just saw this guy. He seems to be staying at home. Why not go collaborate with him? And yeah. Is that okay? Further questions?
Okay.
These are, pretty good questions. Yeah. So what is the total surplus? The total surplus is the combination of the two, right? So this guy plus this guy, which is W minus B plus Z minus W. This guy cancels this guy. So the total surplus is going to be Z minus B. Is that okay? So this is the total surplus they have to share. Now that we've identified the total surplus, we now have to relate this total surplus that they stand to gain if they are to collaborate to their bargaining decision. So imagine they all agree, hey, 50% goes to you, 50% goes to me, or 40% goes to you, 60% goes to me. So this is what you see there to be A, where A represents the fraction that they agree upon between 0 and 1. After they are bargaining, this guy agrees to take A, the other guy will agree to take 1 minus A. Is that okay? So this is their bargaining. Is that okay with everyone? If you have questions, let me know. Tanya, questions in there?
What does A represent again?
The fraction, right? So imagine after we agree that, hey, let's collaborate, I'll go like, hey, let me take 50% and you take 20%.
And is A given to the workers?
Yeah, yeah. It doesn't really matter, right? It doesn't really matter. So if you take A to be the workers, 1 minus A will be for the firm. If you take A to be the firm, 1 minus A will be for the worker. It's just a fraction. Is that okay? Is that okay? So for the textbook, I believe, yeah. So the reason why we are going through this is to get a wage that determines the market. What is the relation between, can you read it for me, Tanya?
So somebody said, so A is a fraction of the surplus?
Yeah, the fraction of the surplus that goes to the worker. 1 minus will be the fraction of the surplus that goes to the firm.
And then we got another question. What is the relation between total surplus and bargain?
The relationship between total surplus and bargain is that after you've identified the total surplus, then you guys will now come together and go like, this total surplus, this fraction goes to me based on your bargaining. If you are someone who has a very good bargaining skills, then you have a very high A. You have a very high fraction of the total surplus, right? So if I happen to be someone who is very, very knowledgeable and I know how to bargain really, really well, then I'll find my ways and means such that I will increase my A so that I'll take a higher proportion of the surplus. Is that okay?
Yeah.
So let's see how this works then. So again, type yes if you happen to be in the chat room. No questions now, just type yes. When everyone is done and you have a question, you can type and Tanya will get back to you. So let's have a look at the workout. The reason why we are going through this whole idea of bargaining and all that is we are trying as much as possible to identify what the wage will be, because the wage is a bit ambiguous. We don't know the nature of the wage. If you are able to identify a surplus and the fraction and all that, we can clearly get a wage in terms of parameters. We don't necessarily have to worry anymore. So remember the worker, the surplus for the worker is W minus A. The total surplus is Z minus B, right? What do I have to multiply by to get this guy here? This is the surplus of the worker. It is the same as the surplus, the total surplus, but a fraction of it, right? And remember the fraction here is A. Yeah, correct. So these two equations are the same. When you multiply the total surplus by the fraction that the worker takes, you get the you get the same surplus. So just make sure you understand this equation before I move along and see how it looks like. Questions? No question? Can I go ahead?
Yeah, no questions.
So now I can clearly see what W is going to be. So W is going to be AZ minus AB plus B. So the wage is going to look like something like this. And that's what you see in the textbook. If you have any questions, please let me know. So we've now been able to identify what the wage is in terms of only parameters, which is much easier to work with. Unlike the first instance, where it happens to be perhaps in values that we don't understand. This guy is a parameter, this guy is a parameter, this guy is a parameter, this guy is a parameter. So we are set to go. So we can now see what W is. Is there anyone with any question? If not, then let's see what the outcome needs to be. So we can now move on to the graphs. So remember, this is W. I'm just going to move you guys, one or two steps back to remind you of what we had in terms of the value of work for the worker. It was V of Q, which is the same as P of C, W plus 1 minus P of C, B. Now the good news here is we no longer need this W, which is very hard to work with because it is within the model, which is hard. We can now replace the W with this constant parameters. So go back to the equation and replace W with these parameters and your life is much easier. That's the whole reason why we have to go through this, tedious process to isolate W in terms of only the parameters. Is that okay with everyone? If you have questions, let me know. Questions?
No questions.
Okay. Now let's quickly go and see how this guy is going to look in terms of the diagram. We have the value of K, we have J, we have everything given to us. All the equations, I believe, if you have to check the video again, you can get all the variables in there. So I'm just going to draw the graph and see whether it makes sense or not. So we start with the labor force market for the worker. Remember, this is going to be his scale, and down there we have J, which is the market tightness. Remember, J is the market tightness, which is A over Q. The value of work increases as the V of Q, as Q increases. And the intuition is very clear. And if you look at the diagram, which is diagram 6.18, you realize that it is only in terms of B plus E, M, in terms of mg, here you are just replacing it with the P of C and the other factors. The whole idea here is that as the market tightness increase, moving from here to here, it means J is increasing. As J is increasing, the implication is that A is increasing. And when A is increasing, it means that more and more firms are looking for people. So if you live in a situation where more and more firms are looking for people, the expected value of you getting a job is very high. And based on that, the value of work or the expected value of work goes up. So this will be for the worker. So as J increases, you are willing to get out and look for more work. So Q also increases. And this captures a positive relationship between the two of them. Is that clear? If it's not clear, let me know. All good, Tanya?
Yeah, no questions.
Now let's go to the firm. Remember, the firm also has to make a decision. Their decision will be coming from the fact that they also have a cost-benefit analysis. And this is going to be the cost of day searching.
We've got some questions.
You have a question?
So J increases and then Q increases, or vice versa?
J increases and Q increases.
Okay, and then someone was asking, what does VQ equal? They can't read that equation.
VQ equals B plus E of M 1J. This is the same as what we just worked with. So if you go back to the textbook, it should be there. And I pointed out to figure 6.18.
Okay.
It should be there, okay? I think we, if it's not clear, let me know.
And someone asked, the first graph is for the workers?
Exactly, the labor force, yeah. Because V of Q is the value of each session per week. And this equation, just to be sure, is the same as B plus EM 1J multiplied by A Z minus E. So this is the value for the worker. This is the equation for the worker. So that's the V of Q that you're asking about. Is that okay? And then the value for the firm is 1 minus A, Z minus B. And I hope you can clearly see why this guy is A here. And this is the total surplus. This is a fraction of the total surplus that goes to worker. Whilst here, it is 1 minus A, the fraction of the total surplus that goes to the firm. Is that okay with everyone? Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah, no questions.
And remember, this guy is going to be J. So we have J here, and you have a graph that looks like this. So we can relate the firm, the decisions of the firm, to the decisions made by the workers. So this diagram is very intuitive. I have the worker, and I have the firm. So let's do a couple of comparative stats. Let's see what the outcome is going to be if any of these parameters do change. So in equilibrium, there might be a certain J star here that matches to the J star we have on the worker side, which matches the Q one that we have here. So this will be the initial point of our analysis, and we can now move along and see what happens. Yeah, Tanya, questions?
No questions. No.
So I'm going to do an analysis that talks about an increase in productivity. I'm going to touch on the increase, yeah.
What is the first bracket underneath K in the second graph?
Where is the first bracket underneath K? Is it here? This is, right? Sorry, this is wrong, right? It's 1 minus K. 1 minus K.
Okay.
Yeah. Was that the question, John?
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I just repeated it twice. I didn't realize that. Sorry. Thank you. So let's do a couple of comparative stats if time allows, and we can finish with that. And you can read the diagram, see how it works, and you can get back to me if a particular graph is not okay. Okay. Now let's look at a situation where on the comparative stats, Z, remember Z is the output. On the comparative stat, remember Z is the output. Let's take the situation where Z, I believe, increases, which is on diagram 6.20. 6.20. Right? 6.20. So if you happen to be a firm and the output that you had was initially 1, and now the output has increased to 5. The question here is, would you hire more people? Or let me put it in another way. If you happen to be an outsider and you tend to see that firms are now having 5 output instead of 1, would you come in as a firm to also produce? Question. Yes or no? Yes, right? Because now there is more output. For every collaboration, it used to be 1. Now for every collaboration, you are getting 5. So more firms will come, correct? Is that okay with everyone? Let me know if it's not clear. I can, clarify it. Tanya, no one with any question in there?
No questions.
So when Z goes up, more collaborations will be needed. Firms will be willing to come. So that's what John said, that more firms will come. So J, remember, happens to be A over Q. Sorry, J is the same as A over Q. Given the fact that this guy is up, more firms will be willing to come and produce the same thing. So this guy will also go up. A will increase. And as A increases, J will increase. So that's where you see J coming from here to J2. Somewhere here. That's the first part of the analogy. If you just want to use, your thinking ability to just look at it. Another way of looking at this is K is the cost of you coming in, and this is the benefit for you, right? This is the cost for advertising, and this is the benefit whenever you receive a match. Now, given the fact that this guy has increased, Z has increased, this entire fraction comes down. So it comes somewhere here. So you now have K over 1 minus A, Z2 minus B, which is the same as what we saw here. Is that okay with everyone? Good. Then this, given the fact that J has increased, the whole idea here is that workers will be willing to work more because the expected value of you getting a match also increases, given the fact that J has increased. So first part, this guy goes up. That's one way of looking at it. Moving from the firm's perspective to the worker's perspective. Another way of looking at it is very simple. Just come to the value of the worker. There is a Z in the equation as well. Given the fact that Z has increased to Z2, this line will also move up because Z has increased. So that's another way of looking at it. So there is a two effects. One effect coming from the firms to the market. The other effect is coming from the fact that this entire equation is a function of Z, which basically implies that V of Q, which is B plus E M 1J A Z minus B has also increased, which means the number of people looking for work will also increase. So that will be the final part of today's discussion. I'm going to stop here. Yeah. Questions?
No questions.
I'm going to stop. If anyone has any question, let me know. And we have 5 more minutes if you guys can give me to answer your questions.
Okay, we've got questions. So it's both a shift up and a movement along the curve?
Yeah, for the first part, you see a movement along the curve because of the J increment. If you are just to tackle the direct part of it, moving from the firms to this. But the shift is just straight out. It's a direct effect. The shift is a direct effect because the Z has just increased. So the line would just increase up. Yeah.
And what is the second dotted line on graph 1?
Which one is that? Is it this?
I think so, yeah. I think that's what they mean.
So the Z has increased. Remember, the equation contains Z. And because Z has gone up, this equation will also, the line will also go up.
Someone said, and the final point on graph 1 is what?
It's what we see on 6.2. It's going to be somewhere here.
And so won't we do the Q for the next line then?
Which line is that?
I'm not sure. I think that's what I think they were just talking about what you just did.
Sure.
So QB further increased. Yeah, that's what you did. Okay, yeah, it's all good.
Okay. Yeah. If you have questions, let me know. And I have a final point to make on your quiz, which will be on Thursday. It wouldn't be this Tuesday. So you get to know when your quiz is due. So for your quiz, the best approach is to look at the videos. Everything will be coming from class, about 90%. If you just pay attention to the videos, it should be fine. It should cover the labor supply, labor demand, and the comparative equilibrium. And as I pointed out, you don't need the graphs in chapter 5. You just need the intuition behind each and every graph and the intuition behind how we derive each and every equation. If you're okay with that, then that should be fine. Yeah, it's gonna be next Thursday. You know for sure when the quiz is due, but this is subject to attendance. When the attendance goes below 45 again, we have to make it random. Okay, so your quiz, chapters 4 and chapter 5, I believe, right? No chapter 3. Yeah, no chapter 3. Questions on the quiz? Questions on the quiz?
Someone asked just this Tuesday's material?
You said?
Someone asked if it's just this Tuesday's material.
No, Tuesdays and the week before, right? Remember, we started with labor supply and labor demand, I believe, last week. So it covers last week up until Tuesday. And please work on your typing because you might need a bit of typing to get along. I realize most of you did very well on the first quiz. So I wouldn't take typing as an excuse for that matter. So just work on the typing and make sure you can answer very short questions with your typing speed. I saw a question in there. Tanya, what's the question?
Yeah, someone said, so chapters 4, 5, and 6?
Chapter 4 and then 5, no 6. No, not these guys. These guys wouldn't be there.
Okay, and what about the graphs?
Is that what? Yeah, so for the graphs, I'm not, so for the graph for chapter 5, forget about the graphs, as in how to draw the graphs. But the most important thing there is the intuition behind each and every graph. If you understand the intuition behind the graphs, then it should be fine. So you don't need to know how to draw every x-axis, y-axis, but get to know what will be the implication as the graph showed us when the parameters do change. Questions again?
So like how each parameter is affected by change in G and change in W?
Exactly. These are parameters, right? Changes in G, changes in maybe Z, changes in maybe T and all that, just like what we saw, right? And then maybe the difference between distortionary taxes and lump sum taxes, how it affects the labor supply, how it affects consumption. Yeah, these are the things that I'm looking out for in chapter 5. Chapter 4, yeah, the same thing, get to know what's the gamma, what it implies about the leisure, how we derive the equations, the comparative stats, which is again how the changes in the parameters do change. And what's the firm and then the workers, do. What is their decision problem and all that. If you have to keep that in mind, it should be fine. If you have further questions, let me know. At this point, you can leave if you have appointments or you want to go to somewhere. But if you have a question, just let me know. I'm going to be around. Yeah. So just let me know if you have questions. It's going to be on for some time and I'll just shift it.